Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the Silver Boys podcast. I am your host, Cam Silver.
I am your co-host, Kyle Silver.
And Kyle, Monday is finally here.
Yes, sir.
The college football championship, the last game of the year.
I know, man. Took a little bit of time to get here, but we here. What an exciting playoff this was. First year of the 12-team playoff. I loved it. We got a lot of matchups that, we didn't expect to get. A lot of things that, just went certain ways that I feel like we were lucky to see.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have seen with a 4-team playoff. So
right.
I'm liking the 12 teams so far. But we got this national championship game coming up.
Yeah. No, I said it before, I liked it. Obviously just gonna be a couple tweaks here and there, but other than that, I like exactly where it is.
Yeah. It's only up from here.
Yeah, it's the playoffs. So, I like how it's not just, the top teams, because it's like, all right, well, now it's anybody's game.
Exactly.
So that's the cool thing. But let's go back to what happened last week with Notre Dame beating Penn State by a field goal.
Oh my goodness.
Penn State it felt like Penn State had it, especially coming up on the end. Game tied 24-24. All Penn State has to do is basically get into field goal range and then they win the game. But Drew Allard throws an interception on what looks to be, I think it was a slant route.
A slant route over the middle, yeah.
Yeah, over the middle that Notre Dame defender was just able to get to before Penn State was able to get there, and then led to, an easy field goal kick that put Notre Dame in the national championship.
What a game this was, genuinely, just in terms of defensive wise. We said it was going to be a defensive game, but I thought both teams really did come out to play and showed their best. And just for it to end like that for Penn State,
yeah,
I'm hurting, but I'm not surprised, because just growing up, I always felt like Penn State is just always like right there, right at the cusp, and then they always find a way to just plummet.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened, and it was just crazy to witness it in real time with my own eyes. But shout out Riley Leonard. He threw 2 interceptions, but I thought he still did some winning things to get there. And then that Notre Dame defense, just made the right plays at the right time.
Yeah,
and that's all the game comes down to.
Yeah, it was looking bleak for them in the beginning in the first half because they just couldn't get anything going. They the defense just tightened up, and then the offense, they just got going. Most of it is, Riley Leonard having a run. So, that's going to be a...
But he made a couple of throws that
he made some pretty good throws, yeah.
He made some pretty good throws. Them going in, getting that field goal at the halftime, and then, getting the score right after, getting the ball back after the second half.
Yeah.
That was huge, and that was a momentum swing.
It's crazy because I actually expected a lot more out of... I think that's just... Over the whole season, I expected a lot more out of Riley Leonard because he's a experienced quarterback. But nonetheless, he's here. He's they're in the championship. So it's been a while since Notre Dame has been here. So that's a good look for them. Going to Ohio State and Texas. Ohio State beats Texas 28-14. Texas had a chance to tie the game as they were knocking on the door. They were at the 1, couldn't at the first down. Try to run it up the middle, couldn't get it. Then they try to do a pitch to the left side. That ends up pushing them back a few yards. Yeah. And then they try to drop back, and then that allowed Ohio State's defense, their defensive guys on the end, Jack Sawyer, he comes in with a strip sack. And then after that, he recovers it and takes it back to the house. Puts the nail in the coffin.
That was just, oh my goodness. I couldn't believe what I was watching when I seen that, KO. It was disgusting. But, hey, we knew Ohio State was going to win this game. I thought Texas would put up, they almost had it. I can't say they should have put up more of a fight because if a couple of things went their way, they would have tied the game, you said.
Yeah.
But, man, Ohio State, they're that team right now. They're that team. They're on a hot streak, and they deserve to be here.
Yeah,
definitely.
They're just clicking on all cylinders. Offensively, they're making the right plays. Defensively, they're making stops. So it's gonna be a tall task for Notre Dame. I think a couple questions that I have are Notre Dame has a great secondary. I like their defense a lot, but The real question is on offense, can they score enough points to keep up with Ohio State? And then on Ohio State side, can they stop the two-headed monsters, in the backfield of Love and Price, and also putting in Riley Leonard as well, but the Notre Dame is really good at, the quarterback design runs. So, couple questions right there. And then, like I said, can Notre Dame stop this offensive powerhouse?
Yeah. I don't know if I can answer those questions, but another question is just, will Riley Leonard put himself in the best position in order to make his team win? But if you think about it, can they score enough points? They put up 27 on Penn State, who arguably has one of the best defenses in the nation right now.
Right.
They got 27. Ohio State only put up 28 against Texas. So, can they score points theoretically? Yeah. I mean, of course, there's a possibility that they can. But I just think that Notre Dame, going into Penn State and really, taking the bull by the horns on the defensive end, I think that they can do that again against Ohio State genuinely. But it's really up to Riley Leonard to progress them forward on the offensive end, not put them in certain positions and certain downs to where they look like they have to run,
right.
Or you know what I mean?
Right.
They can't be running the ball too much. Also, I think that they have to let Riley Leonard air that thing out a little bit,
right?
And get their receivers open too.
But the real question is, how much do you trust Riley Leonard?
I mean,
to air it out,
65%. Trust.
It's not a lie.
It's not. I know. I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
You only trust him 65%, but then meanwhile, Ohio State trusts Will Howard all the way.
All the way.
So that's the key thing for me right there is how much do you really trust Riley Leonard? Because he's did all right, but like this past game he had 223 yards. The game before that against Georgia 90 yards.
90, yeah.
And then before that against Indiana 200. But these aren't, those are pretty good defenses. But this is
he's not stat stuffing the on the offensive end.
Yeah. It's not a stat sheet stuffer type of thing. At least in throwing wise, running wise, like we said, we discussed that already. We know what that's about, but. Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing is can Ohio State make him a thrower? Because I think for the most part, everybody has tried to make him a thrower, but it's just the fact that their run game is like really good. But if they can make him a thrower, I think it gives them even better of a chance than they already have now.
Yeah, this game will be won in the trenches, like on that offensive and defensive line for both teams.
Right.
Because both teams have good running games. So that's really, we'll see whose running game is better and whose offensive line can really hold too.
Right.
All
right. Well, with all of that, last game pick of the year for college football. Who you got for the national championship, my brother?
I'm gonna take Notre Dame. I'm gonna take ND. Just because I ain't seen him over here in a long time. I seen Ohio State here. And I got faith in Marcus Freeman. Yeah. I think, and Jeremiah Love showed me something on that touchdown last week that I ain't seen it all year. He wanted that.
Yeah.
He wanted that touchdown.
Yeah. He wanted
the way he stretched for it.
Especially on one good leg.
Exactly.
Especially on one good leg. As much as I love Marcus Freeman and the fact that he's going up against his alma mater, which is also a pretty big deal.
That's
right
crazy.
There too. That's pretty awesome. Crazy. It always comes full circle.
Yes, it does.
But this Ohio State team is just like I said earlier. They're clicking on all cylinders. There's not much that you could really do with them. Feels like Texas had their chances, but it was just the fact that they could not capitalize on them. And Ohio State showed if you're not going to capitalize on it, don't worry, we will.
Yes.
They would. So I think also that Notre Dame's been riding that, the Northern Illinois loss, they've been riding that for a while. Ohio State's been riding both the Oregon loss and then that Michigan loss at the end of the year. And I think that's been the thing that's been firing both teams. So at the end of the day, obviously, we just know the national championship is more so about who just wants it more. But I'm more than excited to see what this game is going to come out to.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State wins. I'm expecting them to win, but I want Notre Dame to win.
Yeah, I want
Notre Dame to win. They got my heart right now. They got my heart right now.
I feel that they were the team that like kind of like you forgot about in the middle of the season because of that Northern Illinois loss.
Yeah.
But then over the course of the time, that's when you start seeing them build more. And then after that, I think once they got to the playoffs, it was like, okay, like we see you now.
Yeah, most definitely.
But let's go from one playoff to the next.
Sir.
Going off to the league now. The wild card round was insanity. So we're gonna start from Saturday and make our way through Monday. So Houston stuns LA 32-12. Wow. Justin Herbert with arguably his worst game with just 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions.
Oh, interceptions. That is atrocious.
And now Houston will go off to play Kansas City in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's a game.
For the divisional round.
That's a game.
That's going to be crazy.
That's a game.
And they just seen each other literally a few weeks ago. So that one's going to be good. Baltimore beats up on Pittsburgh 28-14. I know the score says 28-14, but this is just one of those cases where the game was not as close as it looks.
As the scorecard looks.
Exactly.
No, the Ravens put the beat down on those Steelers.
Exactly. But to be expected, though. Buffalo beats down Denver. Denver gets off to a great start. They get that touchdown to I believe it was Cam Sutton, and then not Cam Sutton, excuse me, Troy Franklin from Bo Nix, and then next thing you know, Denver just couldn't move the ball no more. It's all Buffalo.
Couldn't do nothing.
And now Buffalo will host Baltimore in this next round. Wow. Philly beats up on Green Bay. Surprisingly, and this is another one where the score doesn't tell you
how the game actually went. Yeah.
Philly was barely moving the ball.
Yeah.
And Green Bay looked like they literally every call that was being called, it looked like they were like, okay, we already know what's gonna happen here. But it was just the fact that, Jordan Love has not taken that next step to becoming an elite guy. Obviously I know Dobbs got injured, he got injured.
I know a lot of those Packer players got injured.
Even
that game.
Their best offensive lineman, like what was the first series of the game, he gets hit in the shoulder. So, like I said, a couple guys are out, but Love just still has not made that next step that can propel him to be, an elite quarterback. He has the potential, he has the gifts, he has the talent, but it's just a matter of him being consistently able to do it.
And actually going out and doing it.
There you go, especially in these big moments like this. Washington beats up on Tampa Bay. Actually, no, not excuse me. Not gonna say beat up, but it was a good back and forth.
That was a good game. That was a good game.
That was probably
for it to end the way it ended. Oh yeah, that was probably one of the best games of the weekend.
A doink off the field goal post.
And everybody was like, "It's in!" Like,
Yo, it was so funny because when it hit, I like froze. I was like,
"Is it in? Is it out? I don't know."
They were like, "It's good." I was like, "Oh, thank God."
Oh my! Talk about a prayer, boy. Talk about a prayer,
dude. Jaden Daniels, man, he might be the most composed rookie quarterback I've ever seen. We were singing praises for C.J. Stroud. Last season, but Jaden Daniels has taken this up to another level, and now it's all about how do you build off of it, and going to see Detroit. And this next round is going to be a good tall tale. Not only how do you build off of it for this series, but how do you build off of it for next year and the years to come.
Absolutely, so, and which they can do. They got a great offensive they got offensive coordinator, good coach. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they got these guys that can propel Jaden Daniels and keep him going. So it's just all about Jaden Daniels staying consistent. Yeah. But he faces a tough task going up against Detroit this next week. Right. A real tough task.
Even though Detroit, something to point out. Even though Detroit has a lot of injuries. Yeah. It's also good to point out that Aaron Glenn is one hell of a coach because the way that he coached his tail off against Minnesota that last week of the season when it's guys in there that you probably never heard of before, but they all look like they've been playing together
They were ready
since the
next
first
man
week.
up.
It's next man up,
Next man
exactly. And that's what and that's what makes Detroit so scary. Is just the fact that they don't care. You know, they're gonna go out there and they're still gonna play their game and they're still gonna make it. You know, they're gonna make everyone understand that they are still that team.
Yes.
Going off to the other LA team, McVay's LA team, they beat up on Minnesota.
Beat up on Minnesota. Oh my.
This was just. I expected so much more.
You know, it's crazy. The Minnesota, they lost to the Rams, and I'm sorry, they lost to LA, and they lost to somebody else. Detroit, week 7, week 8, and then now, you know, coming back by the Minnesota, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Week 18, week 19, they lose to the same two teams.
The same, yeah.
It's crazy how, like you said earlier, everything comes full circle again.
Yeah.
But man, LA was just oh my god.
They were just on one, bro.
It was like Aaron Donald was back on that line. like what?
Their defense is young, man. A player that I've loved watching when he was at Florida State is Jared Verse. He is awesome.
Okay.
He gets after the quarterback, man. And you know, if you were paying attention to that game, you know, if you were paying attention for the most part to LA throughout most of the season, his name has been called a lot. So. Yeah, he's the next one up, and like I said, that defense is young, and they get after it, and they have a big one coming up as they go to Philly this time. After Philly came to them, and Saquon Barkley had himself, you know, a day.
Oh yeah.
So this next round is going to be amazing, and we're going to start off with the Saturday game. So Kansas City faces off against Houston. Wow, this is going to be.
Ooh.
This is gonna be fun.
Ooh.
This is gonna be fun.
Ooh, I don't know, Cam. I don't know, boy.
This is gonna be fun. Just to go over some stats actually before we get into this. So Patrick Mahomes is 6-0 in the divisional round, and has 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 87.5 QBR with a 70% completion percentage. Every time this team hits the postseason,
they're a different squad.
They just know how to turn the switch on.
Absolutely,
they just know how to turn it on.
But then it's a tough question because you know they had that week off. Obviously, they're Kansas City. It's Pat Mahomes, my homeboy. But you know, Houston coming off of a great win against LA.
Yeah,
it's. I don't know.
But a lot of things do factor now.
I know.
Because Mixon now has that ankle injury. So that's a big thing to factor. We're not playing in Houston. We're playing outside in Kansas City. And it's going to be cold.
Arrowhead. It's going to be cold.
And it's going to be loud.
You're going into hostile territory,
exactly.
boys.
You know, their defense is going to get after Mahomes. I believe that. But the real question is, what can Houston's offense do? Can CJ and Nico hook up? Yes. most of this game. That's gonna be the thing. Can he hook up with his guy and get him going early and often? That's gonna be the biggest thing that I'm watching for. Okay. Because if not, we've seen over this whole season. We've seen it over the past seasons since Pat has got there.
For the last 6-7 years.
You give these guys even a sliver of light, it's over for you.
I think Kansas City's gonna win that game just because they've been here before.
Right.
CJ Stroud and Houston. It's still like a new territory for them. I would consider it,
even though they've been here.
They've been here
last
but
season.
I'm just saying, like in terms of going in the Arrowhead. Like having to go up against this monster that is the Kansas City team. I don't know, man.
I say it's a little different now because instead of it being a regular season, it's like they were a few weeks ago. Instead of being a regular season game in Kansas City, now it's a postseason game.
Postseason,
so it's the energy is obviously different.
Most definitely.
But yeah, I also have Kansas City. So two Kansas Cities right here.
Okay.
Going on to the next game, Washington and Detroit.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
That one's hard.
I don't know.
because Washington's coming off their first playoff win since 2006.
Oh.
That's huge, you know. In the big moments when Washington needed the most, Daniels was making plays with his legs and with his arm. They got that big turnover that ended up putting them in front against Tampa Bay.
Yes.
So that was huge. You know, Bobby Wagner coming up huge again. There's a reason why every time you say his name, right after you say Bobby Wagner, you say Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Because he's sure had a Hall of Fame career, and he's still you know, showing you why he's Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Detroit's getting back David Montgomery.
Okay. Which is big. Which
is huge. Sonic and Knuckles is back. That's gonna be crazy.
Sonic and Knuckles. Yo.
This is a tough one, like you said, man.
This is probably, I don't even know. There's like 3 games. All four games are gonna be just barn burners. I think.
Yes.
I'm like down to the wire.
Yep.
Like genuinely, whoever got the ball last, can you go get it? But I don't even know, man. I don't even know.
We'll spin the block on this.
We might have to.
We're gonna spin the block on this one.
We might have to.
Let's go to Sunday. First game is Philly and LA. Like we said last time that these two played, Philly came through and beat up on LA 37-20. Berkeley had 255 yards along with 2 touchdowns on the ground and 47 yards through the air. Philly had themselves an okay outing against the Packers, but against Green Bay, But, you know, now that they have, you know, it's different now. LA's coming off what I would say is their biggest win, especially stopping, you know, a really good Minnesota squad.
And the thing is like, Sam Darnold and holding the ball too long. That was, you know, a thing in and of itself. His offensive line breaking down.
They got manhandled.
I can see Jalen Hurts getting the ball out faster, and you know, obviously relying on Saquon. But I could also see Jalen holding the ball too long too sometimes. And that putting them into detrimental situations too.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, I think I see. Can you see LA taking Green Bay's something out of Green Bay's playbook, and you know, looking at what their defensive scheme was, and being like, okay, if we could apply somewhat of this same type of philosophy, I think it gives them a chance.
And going up against a Sean McVay team, like that's he will outcoach anybody.
Yeah. There's a reason why, you know, when he first became the coach of LA, he was, you know, looked at as like this guru.
And then Puka Nacua too is just
he's different.
Can that Philly defense even stop him?
Yeah, because
different. I think it was like what, the third, fourth quarter, Cooper Rush had it. I mean, not Cooper Rush, Cooper Kupp had his first reception. Like it wasn't even like he was going on. It was Puka.
And that's the scary thing about this team is that you could have Puka be the number one, but then if you really want to, if they want to go and, you know, double Puka,
over there,
all right. Well, then I got a Super Bowl. I got a former, you know, MVP, you know, from the big game a few years ago. Like you know, so it's like a pick your poison. And then plus Kyron Williams, not just he's a 3-down back. Yes. You know, he's not just the you know your first 2 downs. No, he's a 3-down back. He's going to pass catch out of the backfield as well, and he's a tough runner. So, that's a tough one.
I'm gonna take Philly. I'm gonna take Philly on that one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take Philly.
I expect Philly.
I expect Philly. I
would not be surprised if LA were to come out on top.
Wouldn't that be wild? Wouldn't that be wild?
Over every game of McVay's postseason career, he's never allowed a 100-yard rusher. So, and usually running backs that have had great games against teams that they will see again in the postseason never They don't
spin the block.
They don't duplicate or spin the block in that turn. So Philly on that one.
Philly.
Okay, and then we're going to another tough one. Buffalo and Baltimore. Last time these two teams seen each other was week 4. Baltimore beat down on Buffalo and Baltimore 35-10. Derrick Henry rushed for 199 yards and a touchdown. Jackson threw for 156 yards and had 2 TDs himself. Zay Flowers did also miss practice again with a knee injury, so that's something to look out for. Also, it is going to be below freezing in Buffalo. It's going to be like, they said it's going to feel like -3 or something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Definitely going to have to rely on Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry's legs, during that game. Man, this has so many implications. Just narrative-wise, story-wise, career-wise, for both quarterbacks. For both quarterbacks. Because neither of them can win. I'm hoping, man, I'm gonna take the rate. I'm gonna take Baltimore. I'm gonna take Baltimore.
Okay.
Just because I want them to win. I really need to see third leg Henry up in there. But I'm taking Baltimore just because of their offensive firepower mixed with their defense. I don't think that the Bills defense can really hold Baltimore as well as they think they can. But then also too, a couple weeks ago, many weeks ago, when they won 35-10, it was, a lot of things were in moving parts I believe for Buffalo.
Right.
And I think Buffalo has hit their stride ever since then. I think that, they know who they are as a team now. They got that home field advantage, which is the most important thing. But I got trust in Lamar. I got trust in Lamar right now.
Yeah.
Right now, today and this weekend, I got trust in him. Yeah. I don't think he'll let this fall by the wayside.
Yeah, no, you gotta.
I hope he doesn't.
You gotta have trust in him. 2 league MVPs, and the big thing that's missing now is that big game.
Exactly. That's the only thing that's missing.
The big game is now what's missing. So it would be fitting to see Baltimore do their thing. I'm gonna go with Baltimore too. That one's a coin flip.
That's a coin flip.
That's a coin flip.
I wouldn't be mad at if Buffalo wins though.
Yeah, no.
I really wouldn't, because it would be Josh Allen's time as well.
Yeah.
And I think that he is very, very deserving of it, just because of where he brought this team from the bottom of the barrel, in the bottom of the snow, from Buffalo to the top now. But I'm going Baltimore. I'm going Baltimore.
All right, I'll co-sign that one with you. So we got Kansas City, got Philly, we got Baltimore. Now going back to that Saturday night game, Washington or Detroit?
Detroit.
I'm
gonna take Detroit. I just think that they're too much of a powerhouse, too much of a monster. No matter who's in. And I think that Dan Campbell is gonna just coach his tail off.
Yeah. I think I believe that as well. Also just see the running backs, they're back.
Exactly.
The monsters are back, bro, and it's tough.
That'll be tough for a Washington defense.
Yeah,
really tough.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
but it could go either way. And I don't want Jaden Daniels to lose.
If it comes down to whoever has the ball last,
whoever got the ball last,
it's Washington that has the ball last.
Detroit need to be careful.
Yeah, don't be surprised if Daniels pulls the rabbit out of the hat again, man.
I know, dude. I know.
Do not be surprised, but that's the playoffs for you.
That's the playoffs. Man.
This is anything goes, and I like how we try to cover all sides of the ball. We're not just picking
offense or absolutely.
No.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say before we get up out of here, some news from the coaching carousel. Mike Vrabel and New England have agreed to a multi-year agreement for him to become their next head coach. Dallas decided to let Mike McCarthy walk after telling him that he can't talk to Chicago.
We talked about this weeks ago. What was you could have did this weeks ago.
Only for him to now interview with Chicago. That's annoying.
I would be so annoyed if I was Mike McCarthy, man.
Philly's offensive coordinator Kellen Moore speaks with Dallas, so that's going to be interesting. He has played in Dallas. He knows that place very well. I'm now gaining a lot of traction as Deion Sanders to Dallas. That could be a thing.
That would be really huge. Realistically be a thing.
That would be huge. New York, not the blue team, the green team. They interviewed Houston's offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, so that'll be pretty good. He's a really good offensive coordinator. I like him a lot. Minnesota's defensive coordinator Brian Flores will have interviews with 3 teams: New York, Jacksonville, and Chicago this weekend. So
Chicago is obviously in the market for a head coach.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Mike McCarthy would be a bad choice. I really don't think so. I think he would get that offense going.
Yeah.
Way more than it is obviously that we've seen before.
Yeah.
But I really think that he could. Even Brian Flores could get that defense popping too.
Yeah, no, because they have great defense and
Exactly.
they have great guys over there. So
Now they need to work on getting both.
Yeah,
They should work on getting both.
Yeah.
One at head coach, at least one at head coach,
And
then
one
you got the other one
as
either
a- as a
offensive
OC
coordinator
or
or a
DC.
DC.
Yeah.
That would be I think perfect scenario.
Oh yeah, big time. But that is our podcast episode for this week. I
What a
hope
great
you all
episode.
enjoyed just as much as we did. Hey, it's the playoffs, baby. Anything goes.
Any given Sunday, any given Saturday, or right now, any given Monday.
You know it. But till then, I'm your host, Cam Silver.
I'm your co-host, Kyle Silver.
And this is the Silver Boys.
Thank you.